There was a time I didn't even notice how badly I was neglecting myself. I kind of hinted at this in episode one when I told a part of my story in my transformation journey. I said I was dead inside, right? Which means I wasn't loving on myself because I didn't know how. I didn't know how to treat myself. So I was badly neglecting self love and in some cases self care. I was running on fumes. I was saying yes to everybody else, but no to myself. I wasn't making any time for myself. I wasn't doing anything. I was trying to please. I was a people pleaser. And, it looked good on the outside. I was holding it or trying to as best I could together on the external. But internally, man, I was dead. I was burnt out. There was nothing there. Hey fam, really quick. Can I ask you for a small favor? If you have not already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's totally free and it's the second best contribution you can make to this podcast. Please subscribe so we can continue to grow this podcast and grow our community. I thank you and appreciate you so much in advance. Hey guys, welcome back to Where's the Love podcast, episode 2. I am so excited to be back with you all and filming our second episode. I cannot believe it, but I'm here and I'm excited. Episode 2 is titled Self Love Isn't Selfish. So, of course, this is a podcast that revolves around love in its true form. And self love is for sure one of those forms. As I mentioned in episode 1 about the commandment of God, where he tells us to love him and then love our neighbors as we love ourselves, which means we can't love our neighbors if we don't know how to love ourselves or if we're trying to do that from an empty cup. Of course, it was only right for episode 2 to follow up on self love. And in that respect, talk about the fact that self love isn't selfish, right? So many of us can feel that when we're loving on ourselves or we're making ourselves a priority, that's selfishness or we feel guilty or shame, but we shouldn't because we too need to pour into ourselves so that we can pour from a full cup. Hence, self-love is a selfish boo. Okay. So today's episode, we're going to try and dispel the misunderstood journey of loving ourselves. Somewhere along the way, we got convinced that loving ourselves is a luxury or worse, a flaw. But here's the truth. If you can't pour into yourself, every other cup you try to fill will run dry. Today on Where's the Love podcast, we're going to talk about how self love can save your life and why it's the opposite of selfish. Self love, as I mentioned before, is the very, I believe, is after knowing God's love. It is the most crucial part of of all of our love journey to come to understand what true love looks and feels like. Because if we don't know how to identify how to love ourselves, right? And that's not just caring on ourselves or caring for ourselves and the many things that, we see today that could be passed off as self-love, which in most forms is self-care, and that is a part of self-love. But self-love, true self-love, is having those same remnants of love that you give to others unto yourself. Being able to be patient with yourself, being able to be kind with yourself, being able to forgive yourself, be humble within yourself, even when you're dealing, with your own thoughts and introspection. Humble yourself, be kind, don't speak mean to yourself. So, those are some of the things and some of the ways we can begin to uncover and unpack self love in its true form. But of course, it goes much deeper. And today we'll try to dive into that. So let me start with a relatable story. And I'll be real with y'all. There was a time I didn't even notice how badly I was neglecting myself. And I kind of hinted at this in episode 1 when I told a part of my story in my transformation journey. But I said I was dead inside, right? Which means I wasn't loving on myself because I didn't know how. I didn't know how to treat myself. I was badly neglecting self love and in some cases, self care. I was running on fumes. I was saying yes to everybody else, but no to myself. I wasn't making any time for myself. I wasn't, dating myself as many of the girlies are doing today. I wasn't doing anything. I was trying to please. I was a people pleaser. And, it looked good on the outside. Again, like I told you, I was holding it or trying to as best I could together on the external. But internally, man, I was dead. I was burnt out. There was nothing there. It was just dry, right? And so that manifested itself in depletion and in exhaustion. And then it became resentfulness. And honestly, it was just, I felt empty. The wake up call came when I realized I couldn't even recognize myself in the mirror. Like I told you, I did not like the woman that I had become. Not just physically, I was unfit. I wasn't working out. My skin was bad. I wasn't taking care of my skin. My health was poor. I wasn't eating right. And most of all, spiritually, I was just neglecting. I was going to church, but I wasn't really feeding myself as much as I should have been to get to the point of truly being able to identify that I was neglecting self love. So I wasn't loving me. And the truth, when I didn't love myself, I was showing up in relationships halfway. It seemed like it was, full. I was showing up in fullness because let's be honest, most of the people that I was interacting with was also showing up halfway because we were all operating out of a place of neglected self-love. Like, and so many of us still are. So you show up in your relationships halfway. And sometimes you can't even show up at all. And so I thought I was giving my all, but how can you give your all when you're giving from a place of lack or emptiness? There's no way you can give your all. So I was struggling. Hence the reason we struggle with self love because, it's so common. And this is why it's so common in society and in culture and conditioning today, because from early on, especially I believe for women, for us, as we are being reared as young ladies and girls, we're taught to put others first, right? Be kind, be gentle, be ladylike, share, do this, do that, give us the dolls, take care of the dolls, don't treat your dolls like that, and blah 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 blah, care for your siblings, and so on and so forth. So we're taught to always put something or someone else before ourselves and never fully taught to, you also need to take care of you. And for so many of us, we may not have seen that growing up because, to be totally honest, our mother probably neglected her self care and self love too. So we didn't see it, or we didn't see it from a family member or a guardian or whomever it was that we looked up to or who was rearing us. We just didn't see it. And so that being good, we're taught to put others first, and that being good means being selfless, right? So you're a good person when you're selfless. You're a good person when you share. You're a good person when you give, give, give. That's seen as good, even to the point of self destruction. And I said this before, at the rate our society is going, we are leaning and we are on the precipice of total self destruction. Because if love is not rebounding and we don't find it, especially in self and God and in being able to love others, self destruction is inevitable. It's what it is when self love is neglected or love just isn't there. Self destruction. Why? Because the enemy and his little minions are real, and that's what they want. They want to come and destroy, to be destructive, for us to destroy each other, destroy ourselves, our families, our connections, our communities. Like that's what it is, right? They aren't here to see us prosper and love on one another. No, they want us to be destructive and see us just obliterate each other. And so if we keep on the journey or the the path and the cycles that we are in this society and culture, yeah, self destruction is for sure what we will come up against. And we're already dealing with it every day. So, and that we're told that, setting boundaries, my God, boundaries is mean, or that saying no is unkind, or that prioritizing ourselves makes us selfish, right? As I think about these things, what a traumatizing way to really be reared and grow up, that having these types of limits to ourselves makes us not a good person. When it's the total opposite. That's what exactly makes us a good person. When we can say no and still be loving and kind. When we can identify that I just can't do it today. I need a break. I'm setting a boundary. This relationship is not good for me, or this is the point of, this is the limit that I'm setting for dealing with this or dealing with this person or whatever the case may be. Why does that make us not a good person? When it's the exact thing that allows us to identify when we are becoming empty so that we can refill our cup to continue to pour out. So it's just so crazy to me. And so many of us still carry those things with us. And it's literally almost become a part of us in our adulting and even in our parenting our children, or grandparenting, grandchildren. And if you don't unlearn those things, you pass them on to generations behind you, and they still carry those same traumatic and nonsensical ways of thinking about self and self love and self care. And it becomes neglected, and you don't get from that a group or a generation that you can teach that actually caring and loving yourself is actually the way that you love others. And so I was doing some research for this episode and found that psychologists even point out that we internalize guilt and shame when we focus on ourselves. It's just the way the mind kind of operates around dealing with self. We feel guilty and we feel shameful, as I mentioned beforehand, because we've been taught all of these things that brings about those feelings, guilt and shame. And because we've been programmed to link our worth to how much we do for others, people pleasing and wanting to just please and give and serve and all of those things, which is good, but it also has its limits. That's why so many of us end up in that place of people pleasing, overextending, or comparing ourselves to impossible standards online, or even to those in our own inner circles. Because when we get around people who do know how to say no, or who do know how to set healthy boundaries and don't overextend themselves or exert themselves to the point of, no return, and they can't fill their own cups, we begin to kind of secretly harbor jealousy and envy of that because we don't know how. And as a people pleaser, I'll tell you that was definitely a truth for me, because when I encountered people who was confident enough in themselves and didn't need to people please, I was like, they rude, or like, she arrogant, or, how like haughty of them. Like they're, just judging and not knowing the whole time that that's what you need to do. You need to be able to set healthy boundaries and limits so that you don't have to people please. You need to build your confidence enough so that you don't have to people please. You need to learn to say no and not feel guilty and still be kind so that you don't feel you need to please everybody around you. Because at the end of the day, we aren't making anyone happier or have more joy, or whatever the case, making their lives any better than what it would be by us overextending or trying to continue to please. People are always going to be dissatisfied with something. And at the end of the day, you have to understand, like, okay, well, That's not always on me. I did the best that I could. I gave as much as I could and walk away and be happy with knowing that you did and you played your part. It's not your responsibility to make anyone else happy, to bring them more joy, to give them more peace because you can't. They have to find it for themselves, right? They have to do the work to discover self love and self care for themselves. So, having these impossible or comparing ourselves to these impossible standards and doing all of the negative things shows up in love when we're dating people who take but don't give, the push and pull relationship, staying in friendships where we're always the fixer, that fixer mentality, or thinking we have to earn love by sacrificing our own needs, right? Always giving and extending ourselves, serve, serve, serve. And I'm okay. I don't need anything. I don't need anyone. I don't. Babe, yes, you do. Okay, stop. Yes, you do. We all do. We all need reciprocation and connection in a relationship. And we also need to understand and identify how to refill our own cups. We just do. So for those who had that mentality that I can do it all on my own and plus give to you, well, yeah, I'm sure that you are probably more likely than not someone that is on the brink of self destruction because you are running on fumes and may just be empty inside. And if you are, it's okay. Acknowledge it and accept it and fix it. It's not too late. You can turn it around. So the myth of selfishness when it comes to self love is false. Selfishness says, I matter and you don't, right? It's all about me, 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 me. That's selfishness. But self love say, I matter too. Yes, I'm here for you. Yes, I can do for you. Yes, I can give to you, but I also matter. I need it too. I need reciprocation or I need time alone to refuel myself, re energize myself, to love myself. Whatever the case may be, I need that time and space to do for myself as well, because I too matter in this relationship, connection, friendship, whatever it may be. Parent child relationships, yes, parents, we need self love too. We need time to refill our cups, to have self care, alone time, all of that. We need it too. So often parents neglect themselves, my God, and especially single parents, because it's all about, or we at least we think the child, the child, the child, what the child needs, what the kids need. I got to do this for the kids, that for the kids. Yes, we do. As parents, that's our number one responsibility. But we also have to find time for ourselves because if we do not, what good are we to our kids when we are agitated, we are irritated, we're anxious, we're overwhelmed, we're worried, we're frustrated. Now we're yelling at the kids. We don't want to deal with the kids. We're just putting ourselves in isolation because we just can't bear to be bothered with our kids. We don't want to hear about their day. That we don't want to interact or play with them. Like it can be real toxic. So you need to find time, whatever it is, however it is. If it's, the crack of dawn, early in the morning, you got to get up out your bed and go make you a cup of tea or coffee and just sit and breathe or do a devotional or listen to a podcast like Where's the Love? Or that's the only time you can talk to a friend or whatever it may be. Find your solace and take advantage of it because we need it. We all do. And we need to teach our children that as well. Allow them alone time, allow them in their privacy, in their spaces, teach them how to care for themselves and refill their own cups. Take away them phones, the iPads, the screens, and interact and teach them how to be able to be alone, to care for themselves, to love themselves, to build up their own inner person so that when they go out into the world and they're their own independent individual, they're not looking to everyone else to show them or tell them who they are. They know because you took the time to rear them the right way to teach them to be able to identify it for themselves. And I believe that, in identifying the difference between selfishness and self love, one of the major things when it comes to selfishness is that ego drives selfishness, right? Ego is about proving you're better than others. Oh, self love is about knowing you're worthy just as you are. In love, there is no place for ego. There is no place for pride. And I have the love scripture, 1 Corinthians 13, to recite to you all today. Actually, I'll do it now because I was supposed to do it in episode 1 and I forgot before we ended the episode. But I really wanted to share this, and I know most believers at least would know this scripture or this verse, but I just think it's so important for us to be able to identify and to know, especially those of us who are believe in Christ and we know love by Christ's love. This is what the Bible declares that love is, right? And so, 1 Corinthians 13, I'm reading from the ERV version, the easy to read version. And I like this version because of the simplicity. It's 1 Corinthians 13. I'm going to read 4 through 8. And it says, love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous. It does not brag, and it is not proud. Love is not rude. It is not selfish, and it cannot be made angry easily. Love does not remember wrongs done against it. Love is never happy when others do wrong, but it is always happy with the truth. Love never gives up on people. It never stops trusting, never loses hope, and never quits. Love will never end, but all those gifts will come to an end, even the gift of prophecy, the gift of speaking in different kinds of languages, and the gift of knowledge. And then I'll go to the very end where it says, so these three continue. These three things continue: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. So, guys, like I said, love is truly, it's the foundation of everything that we are built on, that we build our lives on or around. That foundation should be love. For most of us, I know it may not have started that way. It may have been trauma. It may have been abuse. It may have been neglect, abandonment, so many other things. But it's not your fault if it was. If love was not your foundation growing up or starting out, it's not your fault. But you can change the path that you are on or your life is on now. And you can build that foundation anew and make love the foundation for which you build your life upon. You build your connections upon, you build everything that is good in your life upon that foundation of love. And because love does not curry pride, it is not prideful, it is not selfish, we really must understand that when, we are in the space of if you're trying to learn self love, or if you are trying to teach self love, you must first learn humility. You must be able to take yourself out of it altogether, because love does not revolve around our feelings, our emotions, what's happening in the moment, right? As the scripture said, it's everlasting. It is what will remain until the end of time and even beyond. It's the greatest of all the three that will remain is love. And if you are trying to love from a place of ego and pride, or from your emotions, your feelings, or your intellect around love, you're going to fail because you're doing it wrong. because all of those things need to be erased, eradicated, removed in order to really understand what self love, what godly love looks like, feels like, how to get it and how to receive it. You have to remove yourself. So selfishness has no place, no bearings. So remove the selfishness. If you are dealing in selfishness and you can identify that, remove it. Start the journey to really remove the things that make you selfish. I can remember before my journey, even, before I became a mother, even as a young mother, I remember being, or at least being told that I was selfish. I was selfish because I really didn't like to share. I was selfish because I wasn't a person that easily gave my things. So it makes me think in some sense I did have some boundaries or limits, right? Even if I didn't say no, I was unkind because I was deemed selfish. And I remember people used to tell me that because I used to think about myself. And I had to really think about that. And I did. I used to think about myself a lot, but I didn't think about myself in a way of godly self love. It was haughtiness, it was prideful um, love or conceit. I thought I was, I was loving myself in a way that was good. But what I came to find out was that the reason why it was selfishness, even in the time if I didn't believe what people was telling me that I was selfish, I didn't really care when people said that because I didn't feel like I was selfish. I was a person that gave. I was kind. I would share. So I was deemed selfish because, yeah, I did care about myself in ways, but I cared about myself in all of the wrong ways. I cared about the things that were less important, the vain things, the things that are easily taken away or easily disappear. Beauty. I cared about my body because that was the way that I felt I drew or attracted attention from men. My beauty, the way that I looked, the way that I dressed. It really wasn't my intellect. It really wasn't my soul. It definitely wasn't my spirit. It was the externalities. It was the things that are valueless, really, that I cared about the most. I would say made me vain. And so, in coming to understand true self love and what that looks like, I now come to understand that it's not just bubble baths or spa days. I love those things too and did those things. And yeah, it's a part of self care, but that's not me loving on myself. That's just my outlet of relaxation in a way that I kind of refuel myself. But what it really is learning to say no in the way that I mentioned and still being kind, but saying no firmly and standing on your no because you mean it. It's letting go of relationships that drain you. It's speaking to yourself kindly when your inner critic is screaming and wants to tell you all of the awful things about you, all of the things that you are working to overcome and to get over and to grow through and grow past. Like, it's all of those things. It's not the materialistic things, it's not the things that will be useless when we're older. Our beauty and all of that will, yeah, remain in some forms and aspects, but it's not really something we can hold on to, but our character, our integrity, our values, our morals, our ethics, our spirit, our intimate relationships with God, our soul, the fullness of our soul, our joy, our peace, our goodness, the way, that you're gentle with people, your faithfulness, your loyalty, the way you're able to control yourself, self control, all of those things, those are the good fruits. Those are the things that those are the everlasting things. So those are the worthy things that when we don't fully understand or truly understand self love, we neglect to even realize we lack. And we think that all of the other things that we do on the outer makes us love ourselves. But then we turn around and wonder why we still feel the same way in the inside, even after we take those bubble baths or have that luxurious spa day or go shopping or spend time with friends or go out or whatever it may be or have a vacation, whatever it may be, you come back and you still feel the same internally. It's because you didn't really build yourself up in self love. You didn't refuel your self love. You just took some time to take care of your external parts, but not the internal parts. And so I found that self love is definitely setting a standard for how you allow others to treat you as well. Because the way we love ourselves teaches others what love looks like. It teaches them what love looks like, and it also teaches them your standard of love. I'm not going to allow you to treat me less than how I treat or love myself. I'm not going to allow you to love me less than how I love myself. Because what would be the point? Because when I continue to pour from my full cup into yours, you have nothing to pour back into me because we started with unequal portions in the first place. I had more, you had less. So I poured, but you had nothing to pour back into me that will fill my cup back to the level it was, or even more so that it runs over. So, what's the point? If I have a standard of self love for myself, that this is how I love myself, these are the things that I do, these are the non negotiables that I have, these are the boundaries, my hard boundaries, these are the things that are no goes for me. But I come and I allow you to disrespect my boundaries, to blow past my non negotiables, forego my no go. Now I'm drained. Now I'm back to that space where I feel empty inside and you can't pour into me. What's the point? You you have taken yourself back to a level where you worked so hard to come from. And doing that and having those things about oneself is not selfishness. It does not make you selfish in the least. If for anything, it makes you an emotionally intelligent person. It makes you a more valuable person, a more sought after person, because someone who is smart would be looking for someone who can actually help them increase their standard of self love or even identify what it looks like and help them grow to love themselves. But for so many, in society today, and especially for our young people, man, the standard is so low. The bar has been set so low, and it's so unfortunate. Our young ladies, our young men, they have not the slightest idea of what that actually looks like. And in having such standards or boundaries or whatever other aspects of self love you feel you need to engage or you need to place, in for you, for your protection. So many are unable to understand the why behind those of us who do have those standards. And I think it just shows again the lack of teaching that has taken place through generational upbringings and rearing. And it's almost like, can we overcome it? Because it feels so ingrained in our culture and our society today that it's like, can we bring our young people out from this? And do they even have the desire to learn or to want to? I have a 15-year-old daughter. And, what was so crucial for me when I went through my transformation journey and the Lord had to really do a deep work in me for self healing and self growth for me to understand my worth and my value. What ultimately became the most important for me out of that process was that I was going to be able to break a generational curse and show my daughter something different. That I was going to be able to show her how doing the hard work to love yourself, to know yourself, to learn yourself would be so beneficial to you because You won't settle for anything. You won't settle for less. People won't be able to fool you and, pull the wool over your eyes by playing all of these trickery games that seems to be the acts of love, but in reality, it's not. They just want something from you to their benefit, and they have nothing to give or to offer you. And so when I was going through therapy, I would share with her the things, the tools that I was learning from therapy. One of the most beneficial and crucial tools was learning the four healthy components of a relationship that I taught her. And that's in any healthy relationship, what should be present is trust, respect, support, and patience. And if you think about it, if you don't have any of those things in a relationship that you may be in today or you find yourself dealing with, that is an unhealthy relationship and it's a recipe for disaster. Because having trust and respect is the foundation that every relationship should be built on because it stems from love. So when you love someone, you grow to trust that person if they're reliable and you respect them in a way where they are important enough to you. They are honest, they're integral, and you want to respect who they are because you see them as a whole person that is worthy of that respect. You want to support them and you want to have patience with them because we're all growing humans in every component. We're evolving in every phase of our life, we will develop and change and grow. At least we should be. We should never be staying the same because if you're staying the same, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're not evolving into anything. You're not developing to become a productive person of society. You're not partaking in your purpose. And more so, you probably don't even really know who you are if you aren't growing and changing and developing. Because all of those things, when you understand that in this phase of my life, it requires me to show up this way. So, what are the tools that I need to show up in my life to be successful in this phase? And all of those tools we may not have. So, therefore, there is some parts of us that will have to grow, have to change, have to develop. We may have to learn a new skill or learn some things. We may have to unlearn some things. But if you're staying the same, none of that is happening within you or for you or to you. So therefore, you're unproductive. You're just lackadaisical, okay with being where you are, staying the same, letting life bypass you. That's okay for you. But that's not growth, babe. If anything, that's trauma and toxicity that tells you to stay in this place because it's too painful to move out of this space. It's too hard to do the work that will require you to grow out of this space in your life. So I challenge you, if that is you and you're dealing with that, to try and find the strength to begin to identify what needs to change in me. What do I need to grow through or grow past, learn or unlearn to evolve and develop and actually begin to love myself the right way so that I can show up in my life, in my relationships, in the atmosphere in a better manner, in a more loving manner, in a more disciplined manner, so that I can pour into others from my full cup and surround myself with those who can pour back into. Off the back of that, I want to move into the practicality of ways to build self love because there are practical ways to do it, not just theoretical. I think the Bible gives us the theoretical ways in which we should love ourselves and love others, which the actions in 1 Corinthians 13 are some ways. Remove pride, remove selfishness, do all of those things. That requires work. So that is practicality. You have to put it in practice. But there's also other practical ways that we can begin to do this. And for me, one of the most important ones, and I mentioned this in episode 1, and I probably mentioned it earlier on in this podcast, but prayer and devotionals were crucial and are still crucial in my life, in my growth journey, and in my journey to continue to evolve in self-love and care. I use a number of devotional tools, but more than anything, of course, is just reading scripture daily and prayer, praying to God. Sometimes I do intercession prayer where I'm just interceding, and other times I just do prayer after my devotion or throughout the day, whatever the case may be that works best for you. Find your outlet, find what works for you, because that is the most practical way that I can advise any one of us to begin to truly understand how to grow in your self love journey. Because you can only grow in self love when you know His love. And if you don't know His love, the only way you can learn His love is through His word. And so, doing daily devotionals, daily scripture reading, Bible study, whatever it may be for you, listening to the Bible on your phone through the Bible app or whatever, that is the number one source of practice that I would say we all need to have in our daily routine. And second to that, I would say affirmations. For me, affirmations or meditations, I have the daily meditation app, which give you like daily scriptures, and it does like breathing exercises and meditation based off of the scripture that they assign of the day. And it has been really helpful for me to learn how to not only sit and calm my mind, but also learn how to breathe. Breathing is such a crucial and beneficial tool to help us relax our internal, our mind, our nervous system, our heart, all of the things. Learning how to breathe is really important. And when you learn how to breathe outside of exercise and you learn how to just sit and breathe, you really begin to feel how much our breathing is connected and integral to every part of us. I can sit and just like I'm talking into this camera for however long, and I feel like I haven't taken a breath yet, not like a real breath. And so my body right now feels so tense. I feel tense all in my body. But after I turn this camera off, or if I just stop and I sit and I really take a meaningful breath, I can feel the relief and the release of that tension that I've been feeling and holding in my shoulders and my back, all of the things begin to dissipate. And so learning how to breathe through doing affirmations or meditations or whatever the case may be, or just breathing exercises is important as well. And try to find good ones. If it can be biblical, do those. But if not, if it's just something that pours into your soul or speaks to a place where you're trying to grow and heal from, do those as well. Try to keep it not those that are just a fluff that just to say I did something, I did an affirmation, I did a meditation or whatever. No, like find one that actually is deep rooted and seated implementation to a space in you that is in need right now, that speaks to something deeper in you. And for me, I had some little prompts here today, but when I was going through my journey, I started listening to a lot of different podcasts and like reading books and things like that. And I came across this young lady on a podcast. I think it was Latera's R. Whitfield's podcast. He had her on. Her name is Brittany Noel. She's a licensed therapist or LCSW, licensed social worker, maybe, or therapist, whatever the case may be. But she made these workbooks, and it's two. Is the other one I didn't bring, but it's called Bloom. But this one I found life changing. Oh my gosh. Like when I was going through my separation with my husband, I worked in this workbook alongside therapy. So on days where I didn't have therapy with my therapist, I would work in this workbook. And oh my gosh, I don't know if she's still selling these, but if so, go find her. I know she's on YouTube. I mean, I know she had a YouTube channel because I subscribed to her channel. I know she's on Instagram and I believe she may be on TikTok. But go find her. If she's still selling this book, buy it. Buy both. Because after you finish this one, then you do Bloom. And this book transforms so much of the way that I identified with self development and growth and healing and everything about therapy. What I didn't hit on with my therapist, I could come to this book and it will touch it. So, like attachment styles, I learned from this book. She had challenges in here. She had prompts for you to like write letters to yourself. She had places, just pour out everything in you that needs to be let go of, that you need to release, that you need to remove yourself from, even things that you want to come into your life. This journal or this workbook prompts gets you to think about those things and write it out, release it on paper so that you can go back to it. And that's why I still use it to this day. Sometimes I'll even go and rewrite. I'll redo the prompts on like separate piece of paper because I've already written in the workbook, but I'll, rewrite again on a separate piece of paper, the same prompt that I've already answered and compare and contrast my answers from when I did this back in 2020, 2021 till now and see the growth in my mindset and what it was, how broken I was when I first did this book. You see the title, it's called Whole Again, A Woman's Guide to Healing After Heartbreak. And this was along with therapy and everything else God brought into my life at the time, going through a separation. It was life changing for me. And it was a blessing because it helped me go so much deeper into my healing journey about things that I would have never known to mention to my therapist or talk about or that I needed to work through. Like it just touched on so much. And so I highly recommend this. If Brittany Noel comes across this podcast, if she's listening, I hope maybe one day we can get her on here because she is an awesome therapist. And I know she like now like does tours and things where she go around and talk about different topics in different cities. But this workbook is is truly it's a jewel and you need it if you are in the process of going through your transformation journey or if you are working through a healing journey or trying to become whole. Self-love, if you're trying to develop self-love, whatever it is, this tool would be beneficial for you. And then I also have some books that I read and continue to reread that also helped me in that time. Some was referred to me or my therapist at the time advised that I get and read. And so the two that she had referred me to was again, Healing Your Heart and rediscovering your true self after toxic relationships and emotional abuse by Jackson McKenzie. And this is so good. So good when in the process of healing and trying to find self-love. This book is amazing. And then another one is Emotionally Healthy Woman. 8 things you have to quit to change your life. And I think it's Jerry. I'm not going to butcher the name, but this one is also so great, so good, practical things and steps in here. And then the other two, I have so many more, but these were the ones that I thought I would share today because they were relevant to the podcast title and the topic and all of the things we were going to discuss and talk about is Be Unapologetically You, a self-love guide for women of color. This book, guys, short and sweet, but power filled and packed with such great advice to get you to understand what true self-love looks like, especially for women of color who are often overlooked, right? And the last to kind of be cared for or looked after in the aspect of love. So, this young lady, this book is amazing to read for my sisters out there who may be watching. Get it, read it, put it to use, make practical the advice that she gives in that book. And then, last, the most important conversation of your life, the father daughter talk by Bishop R.C. Blakes Jr. Guys, oh my gosh, for those of you who may have struggled with father wounds like me, because you may have had an absent father emotionally, physically, mentally, whatever the case may have been, or your father was there, but he just couldn't give what you needed in the moment to rear you in the right way. This book is R.C. Blake speaking as a father to you through the words in these chapters. And he also has a podcast on YouTube as well that I listened to. That was one of the podcasts that I discovered and listened to in my journey of self healing and toward in self love and wholeness. And he is just a man full of wisdom. He's a bishop. He has churches and he just gives women the best advice from a father's perspective for those of us who may not have had fathers to give us that. But this book is amazing. Visit his channel, it's amazing as well. And he is also another guest that I want to definitely get on this podcast because I love Bishop R.C. Blake's. Like, he is truly a godsend for women for so many different reasons and men, just in his own right. He's amazing. But those are the tools that I shared today and recommend. If you can, go find them, go get them, read it, and put the practical advice in play. Don't just sit on it. Don't just read it. Don't just highlight it. Put it to use. Make it work for you. And the next thing we need to talk about are boundaries. Boundaries, guys, are so important. Boundaries, you have to pay attention to where you feel resentment. I think resentment, that's a signal, and when you feel that signal, you have to ask yourself what boundary needs to be set here. So when you're in a situation or in a place or dealing with a person and you feel resentment in that space or any feeling that isn't something that you enjoy feeling, so like anxiety or worry, or you feel fearful or scared or any of those things, ask yourself, why do I feel that in this space or with this person? And when do I feel it? And what boundary needs to be set here so that I can know my limits in dealing with this person so that I don't encounter those feelings when I come into this space. Boundaries are so important. I never knew anything about boundaries until I started therapy and started reading these books and listening to different podcasts. Child, listen, when I say boundaries was something that it took a little time to set, because when you're raised to not have any boundaries and you don't know how to set healthy boundaries and enforce those boundaries, it takes a little time because you will feel uncomfortable. You will feel awkward. Will feel the shame, the guilt when you're setting limits to your own self love and energy and your spirit and all of the goodness that you like to feel when you're trying to preserve those things. Setting boundaries will feel uncomfortable. It will feel like, am I being too mean? Am I being mean? Or should I have said that? Or, should I not have answered that call? Whatever the case may be. But when I learned about boundaries and learned in different aspects of my life and areas of my life where I needed to set boundaries and make sure that they were hard boundaries. It was uncomfortable. I did feel bad about it at first. I did get some flack from some, but at the end of the day, I knew what I was building within me. I knew what I wanted, the energy that I wanted to keep in my space, how I wanted to show up for my daughter and for the important relationships in my life, and how I wanted to show up for me, how I wanted to feel. I didn't want to talk to someone and get off the phone and just feel like, oh my gosh, like now I'm carrying everything that they just dumped on me because I'm an empathetic person. And so now my day just feels burdened because I just allowed this person to dump on me, knowing that I didn't have the space to curry that. I didn't have the space to talk to them, to help them through, or whatever the case may be. Now I feel like I'm carrying it. Now my day is ruined. No, I was tired of feeling like that. So I set boundaries, hard boundaries, and I didn't lift them. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the relationship that I had to let go. I'm okay with the people that had to exit my life or the lives that I had to exit. I'm okay with that because I'm in a better space. I can show up as a better me. I can be more productive as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter, a sister, a friend, all of the things that I am because I know how to set those limits so that my cup doesn't run empty and I can refill when needed so that I'm still pouring from an overflowing cup. So boundaries are super important for all of us. And then the third thing or the fourth thing, I think this may be four, is deeper self care. Yes, treat yourself, but go beyond the surface. And the surface is just taking a bath or having a glass of wine or binging out on Netflix or Hulu or whatever the case may be, just the surface thing. But go deeper. Your self care is more than those things. It looks like scheduling a doctor's appointment that you know you've been avoiding and you may need to go to. For my older women or ladies over 40 or however old you have to be, going to get that mammogram that you may have been avoiding or that PAP that you may have been avoiding, whatever the case may be, do it. That self care too. Taking care of our body isn't just the surface level stuff, the externalities that are tangible, the material stuff. No, it looks like going to the doctor, going to the dentist, going to get that checkup. I've been having this problem for a while. Let me go get this check. I may need to see a specialist or making that phone call or searching for that therapist. I know I need to start therapy. I just haven't had the time or I'm afraid and, people are going to judge me. Look, life is too short. Okay. We all will come up against all of that at some point. But you have to understand that if you want life to be better for you, if you want to live and have the best quality of life for you and those in your inner circle that are most important to you, you want to show up for them in a healthier way, in a more loving way, because you now have that self love. You know what real love is and what it looks like and feels like to give and receive. You have to make the hard choices. You have to do the hard work. It's not going to be easy. No one who is successful will tell you that it was easy getting there because it's not. It requires hard work. And sometimes it requires letting a lot go in order for you to feel like you've only gained a little bit. But at the end of the day, if what matters to you is that little bit that you gain carries you through, and it gives you that sense of joy, that sense of peace, you're encouraged by it, you feel good about it, then that's what matters most. So do it. Take the next step, whatever it may be. Take yourself out on solo dates. I love seeing the girlies that's doing the solo dates now. Like dating yourself is so important. And what's more important is if you're on a solo date, don't just sit at a bar or something just because you're uncomfortable with getting a table by yourself. Get a table, take yourself a book or a workbook like I just showed you. Do something productive that's going to actually, in that moment while you're on that solo date, help you uncover and seal and do the work that's required in your journey to uncover and unpack those wounds or that trauma or the broken places to fill those voids, whatever it may be. Solo dating is good, but if you're just out solo because you're really looking for someone. You're not being productive in your solo dating, where you are dating yourself in order to heal yourself, to learn yourself, to know yourself, so that when someone does come along and they want to date you, you know the standard that you set for yourself in your solo dating, that they can't go no lower than this bar, right? Because this is my bar. This is my standard. This is how I treat myself on my solo date. So this is how I expect to be treated, or you have to exceed that. You can't come no shorter. Sorry, bruh. But seriously, like make sure your solo dating is productive and you're not just solo dating just to put it on Instagram or TikTok just to say you're doing it. No, Make it interactive, make it fun, and make it productive. You don't just have to go to a restaurant or a bar or a concert. Go somewhere quiet. Go to the library. Go on a coffee date. Go sit outside in a park. Take yourself a blanket, make yourself a little picnic basket. Take you a good old book or a workbook or do some devotionals. Take your Bible, your journal, read some scripture, write in your journal, write it out, write them thoughts out, release it on paper or whatever it may be. Listen to a podcast, listen to some worship music or, just some relaxing music. Breathe, do some breathing exercises, meditation, affirmations, whatever it may be. For me, I found when I was separated from my husband and I was doing my solo dating, I love being outside. So, working out in the mornings after my daughter went to school was one of the things I found I enjoyed spending time with myself, working out whether it was in the gym or at home, and then just being outside. And I found that it wasn't just being outside, but I love going for rides. I love going for long rides, being in my car with my window down, with my rooftop road back, or whatever the case may be, listening to some good old music, singing my heart out, though I can't sing a lick. I don't care. Okay. That's what made me feel good. That's what brought me joy and peace and comfort in those places. Like I found my best worship and most intimate worship, and most times where God would speak to me and I can literally hear him so clearly was in my car on a long ride to wherever I was going. And that for me just brought me so much comfort and joy, and it made me feel so good. And so now I know that when I'm feeling tense or when I'm feeling like I'm dealing with a lot and I just don't want to be in the house or whatever, I I'll go for a ride. I'll go for a ride. I'll listen to some music. Or if I'm in my home and working out, I'll blast my music or listen to the music that I like. And while I'm working out, I'm singing because as I'm singing, though I'm breathing through my exercises, I'm breathing as well as I'm exercising. But the singing also, I've noticed that it's helped relieve tension in my body. So after I work out, I don't feel tight. I feel loose. I feel good. I feel relieved and relaxed. Like I just took a melatonin or something. I don't know, but I feel good and I like it. So I do it a lot. And those have become my solo dates, because it's like, who's going out on solo dates and you got a husband? But okay. And then rest. Oh my gosh, rest. So many of us feel guilty for resting. Listen, rest without guilt because your body need it. Okay. The Lord made a whole day for rest. Rest, sleep, whatever it may be, however rest looks for you. For me, it's getting some good old quality sleep. Okay. I be knocked out and I don't care. I love my sleep and I love rest. I love when I can just sit on my couch and binge out and watch a show. For me, it's probably the same show that I've seen a gazillion times, but it's okay. It still brings me joy. I still will crack up like it's the first time of me watching Blackish or Modern Family or, Girlfriends or Sex in the City, whatever it is. I don't care. It's my business. So what? But I love it. And I can just be by myself. I don't want my husband bothering me. I don't want my daughter bothering me. I don't want my dogs bothering me. Like, no, leave me alone and let me be about my business while I'm watching my show. And that's rest for me. I'm rested. I don't have to think about nothing. I'm not, contemplating anything. I'm not overthinking. I'm not feeling overwhelmed or anxious or worried about anything in those moments. I'm just resting. And that is something that we all need as well to be able to show up in that way to truly curry that posture of self love and self care. And then also, I think the last thing I would say is being able to, I know I mentioned, but I don't think I went into depth about journaling. Journaling for me, I didn't bring my journal down here, but when I started with Dr. Hurst Campbell, who I told you all about in episode 1, she made me get this big journal, a 3 subject notebook that became my journal. But it was so beneficial because I wrote, okay? I wrote so much. I didn't know that I had so much in me to write about. I wrote so much and now I have it to go back to anytime I need it, anytime I need to reflect, anytime I need to just go back for reference when I feel like I may be feeling this way again. I have it. And so journaling is so beneficial. Getting your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions out on paper is so crucial and beneficial in your self love and self care journey as well. So journal. If you aren't already, start because it is another therapeutic way to help you release and feel some relief, at least mentally, from the things that you may be carrying. Okay. And, that's self love in action. Those are the practical steps. So now for you, I have a little mini challenge, okay? And that mini challenge is I want you this week to do one intentional act of self love, just one, or you can do however many you want. But for this challenge, just one. Write it down, then share it with me on Instagram or here on YouTube by leaving a comment under this podcast episode or on TikTok. And I want to celebrate with you. And this is so important because this is how we begin to grow community. So again, my socials are linked, but I am at LovingCorisa on Instagram and at LovingCorisa K on TikTok. And of course, the podcast channel here, if you're watching it and subscribed, then you already have it at Loving Carissa. But yeah, make sure you share it because that's how we begin to grow as a community. We get to celebrate each other, share each other's wins, or encourage each other if we need it. And in the show notes, I will add a few free journaling prompts. And I'll title them The Love Letter to Myself. And I want you to take 10 minutes to write out your own love letter to yourself and just watch how much of a difference and a shift it makes in you. Again, I told you that for me, in my journal, I wrote plenty of love letters, but in this book by Brittany Noel, she also had a prompt in here where it was pretty much, and it was several, but I don't know if you can see it, but this love letter to yourself, dear self, she prompted and titled it. And then she gave you a prompt, and it was write a letter to the little girl deep down inside of you, the little girl that is hurt and struggling with her emotions. What do you have to say to her? Mother her, nurture her. And for me, I'll share this on another episode that we're going to do in the future. I'm not going to give it away yet, but I'm going to share this because I suffered from mother wounds too. And this letter for me it was so special. It was so healing and it broke something, or at least it broke something and then it healed something in me that I knew needed it. I just didn't know how to get there, right? Because my mother is my heartbeat. I love her so much. And for me, in that moment in time where I was in the space of my healing journey, I just couldn't bear to bring up to her the sufferings that I had when I identified that I did have mother wounds and I didn't know how to deal with that. I didn't know how to release that, right? Because I wasn't ready to have a conversation yet. And when I came up on this prompt, it was just like, thank you, God, again for knowing what I needed in the moment. And so this letter was so intricate and just, it was so important to me at the time. And I'll share it in a future episode with you all, but not now. But there were so many more prompts in this book that she had. Here is the actual prompt of what's your love story, where it is basically a love letter to yourself. When and how, did you meet, talking about an ex or the person that you may be healing from the heartbreak over. And just talking about that love story and then healing from that love story, so what happened in the heartbreak and then healing from the heartbreak and what that looks like. But again, this journal or this workbook is truly, it's a blessing. It's transformational and it's definitely therapeutic and for your healing journey. So that's all that I had today for this podcast episode. I hope it was noteworthy. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was impactful. And I definitely hope that it was changing in the sense of being able to give you a different component and aspect if you are in that space of trying to identify self love or grow to be able to love yourself in a better way and know what true self love is and give yourself better self care. I hope that this episode truly helps you and take the challenge, do one act, share it, write that love letter. Look for the free prompt in the description of the show. And I hope that you write it out and if you're comfortable, share it with the community. And that is all, folks. So if you remember one thing from today, let it be this. You are not selfish for loving yourself. Loving yourself is the foundation of every other kind of love you'll ever give or receive. In our next episode, we'll dive into the tricky question of why we sometimes give that love to the wrong people and how to stop the cycle. This is the end for now. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for being a part of this community. And don't forget, if you haven't already, to subscribe to this channel. It is definitely the best thing you can do to help us grow this community.